So a couple weeks ago, a relative of mine, an older relative of mine, made a comment about how now they want to give rations to, help pay back for the slavery, billions of dollars in taxes to rations. And he was all upset. It was actually before the George Floyd stuff. And what I said was, whether you think the whole idea of rations is a good idea or a horrible idea is beside the point. What I want you to do is think about why. What's the real reason why? Maybe it's deeper than you think. So I'm gonna play a couple clips from a good video from Beau of the Fifth Column, who's a guy I've been following for about a year and a half. Talked to my son a lot about his content. He gives great perspective. His background is, he looks like a redneck hick from the South, but his background is working in like black ops and private defense companies, and he understands guns and police brutality, and he's got lots of videos about that in the last couple years. And this clip here, he talks about how one of the famous recipes that comes from the black community actually originated from the food that was thrown out from the slave owners. It helps give some good perspective, as well as something that Morgan Freeman said that hopefully can help make some sense of this and help something you could pass on to somebody else.
When we think about slavery, we think about the physical costs of slavery, and they're horrible, no doubt. But I think today what's more relevant is something else. Where are you from? Not in the US. Where are you people from? Odds are, if you're white, Ireland, Scotland, England, Germany, Italy, Greece, France. Where are you from? And based on your answer, I can tell you all kind of things about you. I can tell you whether your gravy is red, brown, or white. I can tell you what kind of booze you probably drink. Tell you what kind of food you eat. Tell you what cuss words you use. Translates into a lot of things. The values you instill in your kids, the jokes you tell, the biases you have. My kid's 4 years old. One of them. He's 4 years old. If I look at him and I say, ooh, ah, he's going to go up the rah. Now, if you're Irish, you just laughed. If you're English, you probably got a little mad, because that's part of your cultural identity. If you're not either one of those, you have no idea what that means. 4 years old. Kid doesn't know where Ireland is. Couldn't point to it on a map. But it's already starting to get ingrained in him. He's already being able to take pride in that cultural identity. Why don't we have Bantu pride? Congolese pride? Why don't we have that? See, the sociologists, they like to point to black pride and say, oh, well, it's a healing endeavor. So, black people can get together and they can join in that struggle. That's a cop-out. That is a cop-out. That's a whitewash of the reality. The reality is that slavery ripped that from them. They have black pride because they don't know. I don't know. It wasn't in the slave owner's interest to keep track of the cultural heritage of his property. So that cultural identity that shapes you, it does. Think about it. Think about how much of what you are as a person.
Even the Constitution of the United States that we all bow down to and everybody keeps referring to has several instances referring to black people as 2/3 of a person. Okay, I'm not a historian, nothing like that. The point is that this stuff is not just about healing either. It's still systematically in our culture today.
Your heritage like that was stripped away, gone, and it got replaced. It got replaced. Down here in the South, especially out in the country, you go into a black kitchen, somebody is going to know how to cook hog jows and chitlins. Pig's feet. Down here, that's seen as black cuisine. That didn't come from Africa. Not the way pasta or shepherd's pie came with us. That came from the plantations. That's what the slave owner threw away and let them eat. They endured that for so long, it became part of their culture. They endured it for so long they got good at it. Found a way to make it flavorful. No, I can't understand what it's like to be black in the U.S. I can't understand what it's like to have my cultural identity stripped away and replaced with the knowledge that when my granddad was a kid, people didn't think he was human. Or that what is seen as my cuisine is because we got good at cooking trash. That's going to affect a people, a collective people, on a very deep level. You know, when you say get over it, we're a long way away from that. We're a long way from getting over slavery. Yeah, the physical scars, they've healed. They have. Cultural ones are still there because it's gone. It was stripped away.
What about when President Lincoln came along and we had the Civil War and slaves were eventually freed? Now what happens? What do? Morgan Freeman says it way better than I can say it.
Talk about goddammit, it's all talked out. I'm gonna cut his fucking throat.
Haywood? Wait a minute. What's he done to you?
And that's what they done. I got no choice.
Brooks, you're not gonna hurt Haywood.
He's bleeding.
It's the only way they let me stay.
Come on, this is crazy. You don't want to do this. Come on, put it down. Crazy old fool goddamn near cut my throat.
Oh, shit, Haywood, you've had worse from shaving. What the hell did you do to set him off anyway?
I didn't do nothing. I come in here to say fairly well. Ain't you heard his parole come through?
I just don't understand what happened in there, that's all. Old man's crazy as a rat in a tin shit house is what.
Oh, Haywood, that's enough out of you.
I heard he had you shitting in your pants.
Fuck you.
Won't you knock it off? Brooks ain't no bug. It's just institutionalized.
Institutionalized my ass.
The man's been in here 50 years, Haywood. 50 years. This is all he knows. In here, he's an important man. He's an educated man. Outside, he's nothing. Just a used-up con with arthritis in both hands. Probably couldn't get a library card if he tried. You know what I'm trying to say?
Red, I do believe you're talking out of your ass.
You believe whatever you want, Floyd. But I'm telling you, these walls are funny. First you hate them, then you get used to them. Enough time passes, you get so you depend on them. That's institutionalized.
Shit. I can never get like that.
Oh, yeah? Say that when you've been here as long as Brooks has.
Goddamn right. They send you here for life. That's exactly what they take.
So imagine living at your owner's plantation or home or farm or wherever that is, and you've got kids, maybe grandkids, maybe you're 65 years old with kids and grandkids, maybe you're 35 or 25 with very young kids. And all of a sudden, you're now free. All of your meals have been taken care of through your owners. You've been treated like property, yes, but that's where you live. You don't need income because you're a slave, but your livelihood is taken care of by your owner. All of a sudden now you get to go out into the real world and be free, yet you didn't get to start when you were born free. You started when you were 35, 55, 75. Where do you go? Where do you go get a job? How do you make money? How do you survive? What's it like? Think about the legacy. What about the next generation? The next generation, they started from behind. To me, the essence of white privilege is not the elitist that gets all these handouts. It's the fact that if you're white, like me, you've probably never had a situation where you got pulled over because you were driving a nice car because they assumed that you could have stolen the car, or you were just walking down the street and got harassed. Not because, you're somebody that has an audience and you have people that, like you and don't like you, so you're getting harassed. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody that gets harassed by a complete stranger, and in many cases somebody of authority, or just gets treated a different way. To me, that is the epitome of white privilege. And obviously you have to have systemic change to impact that. And yes, you might be listening to me saying, hey, Kay, what about people that are born into privilege, that grow up with no motivation and end up just going and using drugs and all these things, and end up on just lazy? Yes, there's plenty of those situations, but they also were born with a head start, and they keep getting second chances and third chances and fourth and fifth and sixth chances. Eventually, sometimes they wake up when they're 28 years old and they become successful. Sometimes they don't. And then, of course, on the other side, I go through this a lot, thinking I want my son to be motivated and hungry, yet I want to take care of him. It's this balance. But because we see people that grew up, you take like a Gary Vaynerchuk, or you have a lot of people that came over here as first or second generation immigrants who were very motivated, and those people were hungry and they became really successful. Or they grew up in the hood, right? They grew up in a maybe a urban community and were hungry, and they worked their way out of it. Those are the diamonds in the rough. Just imagine the first and second generation. We're not very far away. We're only a few generations from when all of this happened, at least in North America here. And this is institutionalized, systemic issues, okay? Now, I'm not going to go deep into all the other stuff because I don't have enough knowledge at this point into the systemic racism in our organizations and institutions, right? But point is just in general, look at the situation from a whole. People come up in different environments. One of my favorite things to do with my son is to watch movies. Like, one of my favorite movies is American History X. And we watched it when he was about 10 years old. And it's really gruesome, and it's really not appropriate for kids that young. But I did anyways, because I like to talk to him about these types of things. And it's a great story of somebody who grew up in hate and hated black people, and grew up in like a KKK white power community, and then went to prison and ended up working next to this black guy for the next 2 or 3 years, and got to know him as an actual individual instead of just a group, and realized that he is a person just like him. And you have to experience this stuff firsthand. So the more that we can see things like this and experience, and have our kids watch movies like that. Actually, Beau of the Fifth Column talks about, I think it's called Highlander series. I think I've seen a few episodes. I need to watch it with my son. But he said it's a great movie to watch with your kids, that's appropriate for kids, that shows the evolution of somebody who started out being macho and I'm better than everybody and my race is better than my, and then eventually as he started jumping into all these different timelines and seeing these different cultures, he started to realize and see and empathize with different people. And so it's just a great way to learn and to be open to reality, So one thing I recommend too is just watch other news channels. If you only watch MSNBC, watch Fox News. If you only watch Fox News, watch MSNBC and CNN and some of these other channels. Please watch them with an open mind and watch them with a skeptic mind. I've got a friend that was an anchor at Fox News, okay? Not just a cameraman or something like that. We're talking about an anchor at National in New York. Left his contract early for personal moral reasons. I'm not going to get into it. The point is that I know a little bit more than the average person about these. If somebody, typically when you see that person, if that person is in high school or junior high and they're the one that thinks everybody's lying and cheating and stealing and calling you fake news and this and this and that, usually there's a reason. It's because the reason why they are paranoid is because they are a consistent liar and cheater. Okay? So be careful when you see somebody saying that it's all fake. It usually means that it's a defense mechanism. So just be careful what you read. Look at things from all sides and realize that everybody has agendas from the far left to the far right. But look at both sides. So you have all these repercussions, and then you have systemic, deep racism at institutions. Yes, there's police officers that are racist. Guess what? Most of them are not racist. But there's also policies, there's issues, there's biases, there's subconscious biases, there's these things that we have to realize are there. And I can't even imagine what it's like to walk around, especially in an urban area, dark skinned. And that's why all these athletes are speaking out and freaking out right now, because they have a voice, they have a platform, and they should. But more importantly, I believe, are white people like me, average people, white people with platforms, white people without platforms. But talk to our kids, talk to our friends. Just, this stuff is real. It's not overreaction. All this George Floyd stuff, it has been boiling up, and now we have economies, we have crashes because of the pandemic, so people are frustrated. It's real, okay? And it's way deeper than most of us realize, and it's way deeper than I even tried to articulate here. I just wanted to give one sliver of a scenario to try to look at, and just try to look at things from other people's perspectives as much as possible. I think that's a great way to go, and we get to grow as a human as well. So that's it for this video. If I will link to some of the things I mentioned in this, as well as a link to those other videos. But share this, with your kids, somebody just in general that you think this would be interesting and helpful, and just give some perspective. Cool. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.